They will cry when you finally accept the truth they fought so hard to hide. Not when you rise, not when you fight, not even when you survive. They will cry when you accept, because the moment you do, their illusion shatters, and the lie they built around you begins to collapse under the weight of your truth. The enemy didn't go after just anyone. They didn't waste their weapons on the weak. They launched their full arsenal against you, not because you were broken, but because you were born with something they could never replicate, something they could never own, never control. From the beginning, they saw your light as a threat, your voice as a weapon, your presence as a storm they couldn't stop. So they lied to you, twisted your reflection, surrounded you with darkness so thick you began to forget you were the flame. Before we go any further, like this video, drop a comment and subscribe if you feel the fire in your soul right now. Because when you react, it tells the system that truth still travels faster than their lies. It tells YouTube to push this message to more chosen ones, and every time this truth spreads, their grip gets weaker. This isn't just content. This is a warning shot. This is spiritual rebellion in motion. This is confirmation. Let me be clear. This message is dangerous, not to you, but to them, to the architects of your doubt, to the engineers of your fear, to the ones who tried to keep you blind, silent, and small. They never feared your fall. They feared your acceptance, because once a chosen one stops denying who they are, every shadow that moved against them starts to tremble. The real war was never outside. It's always been about your agreement with destiny. They could delay you, distract you, even damage you. But what they could not survive was the day you said, "I know who I am now, and I'm not running anymore." You are not just someone with potential. You are someone with providence. You are the prophecy walking. You are the one they whispered about behind closed doors. You are the one they tried to confuse with counterfeit versions of yourself. So you doubt the real one. They kept you stuck in cycles, battling invisible enemies, chasing external validation, because the moment you turned inward and saw the truth, the war was over. Not fought. Over. Do you know why your life has been under siege since the beginning? Because power this deep terrifies the system. Your very existence is a glitch in their matrix, a cosmic rebellion coded into human form. You were never meant to fit. You were never meant to be understood. You were meant to lead the escape. And the moment you accept that, every force that once tried to destroy you will watch in horror as you become the force that dismantles them. The enemy does not fear your strength. They fear your remembrance. They fear the day your pain no longer controls you. They fear the hour when your wounds turn into wisdom. They fear the second you realize you weren't cursed. You were called. You are not rising because you healed. You're rising because you accepted that your scars are proof of divine assignment. You didn't break. You were forged. And now, every step you take in truth scorches the lie they built to contain you. So now you know, you were never the problem. You were the prophecy, and they're crying already, not because you're angry, not because you're fighting back, but because for the first time in your life, you believe it, you accept it, you own it. And that sound you hear in the distance, that's not thunder, that's their illusion collapsing under the weight of your awakening. This is not a video. This is the moment they hoped would never come, and it's here. So before we rip the mask off what's really been happening around you, pause for a second and own this moment. If your spirit is burning right now, if something in you knows this message is not by accident, then let the enemy hear you. Drop 888 in the comments to let them know you've seen through the illusion and you're done pretending. Every like, every share, every comment pushes this truth into the hands of another chosen one, still on the edge of waking up. And trust me, they don't want that. But it's too late now. The shift has begun. And now, let's tear this open step by step. If you're truly chosen, you won't be able to walk away. The more you hear, the more it'll feel like your soul is remembering something they tried to bury. Stay with me, because by the end of this, they won't just fear your acceptance. They'll regret ever trying to stop it. Let's begin. Number 1. They built a lie around your name. They didn't fear your name. They feared what your name would become once you remembered who you are. So listen, chosen one. They didn't just attack your path. They went after your identity. Because when you're chosen, the war doesn't start with bullets or bombs. It starts with labels. Before you even had the chance to walk, they handed you names that were never yours. Too much. Too quiet. Too weird. Not enough. Hard to love. Difficult. And you believed them because they came from the mouths of people you trusted. But those weren't descriptions. They were assignments. Codes in a system designed to make sure you never woke up to the power you were born with. You see, the enemy never feared the name you were given. They feared the weight that name would carry once you fully stepped into it. That's why they tried to twist your reflection so early. They wanted you to hate what was divine about you, to spend your life running from the very thing they feared the most, your truth. From the moment you arrived, they watched you, maybe not with their eyes, but with their systems, with their false authority. They studied your energy like a hawk studies a storm cloud, knowing it would one day erupt. That light in your eyes, it shook them. Your ability to see through lies before you even had words for it, it threatened their illusion. So they started young. Before you even knew what it meant to be you, they offered a version of you that served them. A smaller version. A tamed version. A version that asked for permission instead of commanding presence. Think about it. Why were you always the one that didn't fit? Why were you the black sheep, the misfit, the one they said had too many questions, too many emotions, or too many dreams? Because they knew you were designed to break the mold, not fit into it. And if they couldn't stop your arrival, they tried to distort your direction. If they couldn't kill your light, they tried to dim it with false stories. They told you your identity was something you had to earn, through obedience, through silence, through blending in. But that was the first lie. You never had to earn what was given to you before you were even born. Your power didn't come from proving yourself. It came from being yourself. And once you accept that, the entire system they built around your confusion begins to crumble. They were never afraid of your rebellion. They were afraid of your clarity. Because once a chosen one sees clearly, nothing can be manipulated anymore. You stop apologizing. You stop explaining. You stop bending yourself into pieces just to make others comfortable. You stop trying to heal in systems that profit from your brokenness. You stop seeking permission from people who were never qualified to define you in the first place. Do you understand the threat you pose? Not because you're angry, not because you're violent, but because you were never supposed to wake up. The fact that you're even hearing this right now means the programming didn't work. And that's what haunts them. You weren't supposed to make it this far. You weren't supposed to question the labels. You weren't supposed to outgrow the story they wrote for you. But you did. And now you're rewriting it. Look through history. This is how they've always operated. They labeled Jesus a blasphemer before his truth shook nations. They called Malcolm X a radical before his words became timeless. They painted Joan of Arc as insane before she led armies. They ignored Nikola Tesla until his visions powered the modern world. The chosen are always mislabeled on purpose, because the easiest way to bury a chosen one is to make them bury themselves. But here's the part they didn't expect. You remembered. And when a chosen one remembers, the entire spell breaks. You start to see it. The moments they tried to break you weren't personal. They were strategic. That teacher who humiliated you. That parent who couldn't love you properly. That relationship that drained your worth. All of it was meant to wrap false identity around you like a chain, to confuse you so deeply that by the time you reached your purpose, you'd be too tired to embrace it. But something in you kept burning. Something in you kept rising. Not despite the war, but because of it. Let me ask you something, and be honest. Have you ever felt like even in your lowest moments, some part of you knew there was more? Like no matter how many times you questioned yourself, something deep down refused to fully surrender. That wasn't your ego. That wasn't your imagination. That was your essence fighting for air. That was your true identity refusing to die. Because chosen ones don't disappear, they re-emerge. And when you re-emerge with clarity, the ones who labeled you start to panic. Not just because you survived, but because you're no longer begging for belonging. You no longer shrink to fit rooms that don't deserve you. You no longer explain your light to those committed to misunderstanding it. That's when the enemy cries. Because the moment you accept your name, your true name, every lie they spoke over you loses power. You were never too much. You were always exactly enough for a mission too big for small minds to grasp. You were never hard to love. You were just too sacred for those who hadn't healed enough to love themselves. You were never broken. You were disrupted for a reason. And now that you know the truth, there's no going back. Because once a chosen one stops seeking their identity from the outside and accepts the divine blueprint within, the system breaks. Their hold breaks. Their illusion breaks. Everything breaks. So take back your name, not the one they gave you, but the one that resonates in your bones, the one that makes demons flinch and fake friends run, the one that doesn't beg to be understood, because it was never meant to be diluted for comfort. You are chosen. You are marked. You are seen. And now you are accepted. And that's what makes them cry. Number 2, they hid your power in plain sight. The best way to hide royalty is to convince it it's a servant. So listen, chosen one, they didn't bury your power underground. They buried it right in front of you, wrapped in shame, covered in labels, disguised as too much. The most dangerous part. You believed them, not because you were weak, but because from the very beginning, they taught you to see your gifts as flaws. And when you're trained to hate what makes you powerful, you become your own cage. Your empathy was called weakness. Your creativity was labeled distraction. Your sensitivity was mocked as fragility. Your vision was dismissed as delusion. Your insight was met with, "You think too much." But what they were really saying was, "We're afraid of what you might unlock if you ever trusted your own voice." They knew exactly what they were doing. The system never tried to remove your power. It just convinced you to hide it from yourself. Why? Because the greatest threat to control isn't force, it's remembrance. If you remember who you are, the game ends. So they flipped the mirror. They made you look at your divine wiring and call it a problem. Because if you believed your power was a burden, you'd never use it. Look back. How many times did they attack you right after you shined the brightest? How often did your confidence get labeled arrogance? How often did your deep thinking get shut down in favor of shallow noise? That wasn't coincidence. That was conditioning. They needed to clip your wings before you realized you could fly. It's a subtle, brutal kind of warfare, one that doesn't chain your hands but poisons your perception. They trained you to police yourself, to self-reject, to see your brilliance through a lens of dysfunction. Not because you were broken, but because you were powerful enough to break the system itself. The best way to hide royalty is to convince it it's a servant. That's what they did. They gave you instructions designed for people who were never meant to lead. They taught you to wait your turn in a game you were sent to redefine. They told you to stay humble when what they really meant was stay silent. And the moment you began to unlearn those lies, you became dangerous. This is what happens to every chosen one. The world doesn't recognize your divinity, so it pathologizes it. And if it can't label it, it isolates it. But the truth? The fact that your essence made them uncomfortable wasn't proof that you were broken. It was proof that you were built for more. Einstein was called slow. Joan of Arc was called possessed. Jesus was told he had a demon. Malcolm X was called a threat. Every one of them carried something sacred the system couldn't categorize. So instead of honoring it, the world tried to erase it. And they tried to do the same with you. You ever wonder why the things that make you you seem to cause the most friction? Why your intuition always stirred resistance? Why your passion was too loud, your questions too deep, your feelings too strong? It's because the energy you carry can't be molded. It can't be faked. It can't be copied. And that's exactly why they feared it. The system doesn't reward uniqueness, it punishes it. Because if too many people like you wake up and own their gifts, the illusion falls apart. That's why they never told you your vision was a gift. They never celebrated your insight. They never nurtured your intensity. Because they weren't preparing you to lead, they were trying to keep you in line. But here's the truth. What they shamed in you was sacred. What they dismissed was divine. What they silenced was spiritual. You were born with weapons the enemy hoped you'd never learn how to wield. But now, you're waking up. And once a chosen one reclaims the very things they were told to hide, their power becomes undeniable. You weren't meant to blend in. You were designed to break patterns. So take it all back. Every tear they called weakness, every instinct they mocked, every dream they said was too unrealistic. Take it back, because your power was never gone. It was just waiting for your permission, waiting for the day you'd look at your reflection and say, "This is not too much." This is exactly what it was always meant to be. And when you do that, when you own what they tried to bury, they cry. Because the only thing more terrifying than a chosen one rising is a chosen one accepting that they were never broken in the first place. Send the next one when you're ready. Let's keep the fire going. Number 3. They feed you shame so you never feel worthy. They broke you with guilt before you even knew who you were. Before you had the language to say no, before you had the strength to walk away, before you even knew who you were, they laced your soul with shame. And not the kind that teaches you right from wrong. The kind that makes you question if you even deserve to exist the way you are. That's the enemy's favorite weapon, shame. Because guilt controls behavior, but shame controls identity. And once they have your identity, they don't need chains. They've got your mind. They didn't come at you with violence. They came with silence, with expectations, with sideways glances, with what will people think, with good boys don't do that, good girls don't say that, you're being dramatic, you're so selfish, you should be grateful, don't talk back, why aren't you more like? Sound familiar? That was the programming, early, relentless, and targeted. They made you believe that being worthy was something you had to earn, perform for, fight for, and eventually bleed for. And that's how they trained you to forget your own worth. You were taught to connect love with obedience, value with silence, safety with suppression. The more you disappeared, the more you were praised. The more you gave up your truth, the more you were accepted. But deep inside, something started to die. Because you weren't born to shrink, you were born to shine. But every time you tried to speak, move, cry, feel, fight, question, they shamed you, until you started shaming yourself. That's the real trick. They didn't just make you feel bad, they made you feel wrong. They handed you shame and said, "This is who you are." But the shame was never yours. You inherited it. You absorbed it. You wore it like skin because they told you it belonged to you. But it didn't. It was projection. It was fear. It was control disguised as culture, as religion, as love, as doing what's best for you. They broke you early because they were terrified of what you'd become if you ever believed you deserved more. The moment you say, "I deserve better," the enemy starts to panic. Not because you're demanding something from others, but because you've remembered something about yourself. That you were never created to beg for crumbs at tables you were meant to flip. That you were never meant to prove yourself to people who couldn't see your value if it screamed in their faces. That worth isn't something you have to hustle for. It's something you were born with. And the second that belief starts to settle in your spirit, the spell starts to break. This is why the system builds entire industries on your insecurity. Beauty, social media, fashion, toxic self-help, certain religions, broken family systems, they profit from your shame. Because a chosen one in shame is a chosen one in chains. As long as you question your worth, you'll never step fully into your authority. You'll keep playing small, dimming down, second-guessing, over-apologizing. You'll keep giving energy to things that drain you just to feel like you're enough. But when you realize that shame is a lie, when you throw it off like a filthy coat you were never meant to wear, the whole game flips. The enemy didn't need to destroy you. They just needed you to destroy yourself from the inside out. That's what shame does. It doesn't just silence your voice, it silences your permission to speak. It doesn't just lower your confidence, it replaces your identity with doubt. And that's why your liberation terrifies them, because when you reject the shame, you start to accept the truth. And the truth is, you were powerful before you even knew what power was. Let me say it clearly. You do not owe your suffering to anyone's comfort. You do not have to earn rest. You do not have to qualify for peace. You do not need to perform for love or succeed to matter. You do not need to look a certain way, act a certain way, or conform to any mold to deserve everything you were born with. They told you otherwise because a chosen one who accepts their worth is uncontrollable. Look at every powerful soul who made history. They all had to shake off shame. Jesus was shamed for healing on the Sabbath. Joan of Arc was shamed for dressing like a man. Malcolm X was shamed for telling inconvenient truths. Frida Kahlo was shamed for being too raw, too broken, too real. They tried to shame the greatest, until the greatest decided not to carry it anymore. And that's your moment now. Because once you say, "This shame doesn't belong to me," everything shifts. The guilt you carried, it was never yours. The fear of being too much, it was theirs. The lie that you had to earn your place here, that was their curse, not your truth. You don't have to carry it anymore. You don't have to apologize for healing, for growing, for glowing, for walking away, for choosing yourself. Shame is a system, but your worth is a truth. And when truth meets shame, shame dies. They fed it to you to control you, but you're spitting it out. And when they see you walk with your head high, unchained by guilt, no longer haunted by their projections, they'll cry. Because the version of you they could control no longer exists. Number 4, they feared you would remember. They didn't need to destroy you. All they needed to do was make you forget. Forget your voice, forget your truth, forget your fire, forget your essence. That was the real war. Not the one on your body, but the one on your memory. Because once a chosen one remembers who they are, the entire illusion begins to crack. You didn't just survive their attacks, you remembered. And that is what terrifies them. The enemy feared your awakening more than anything, not because you're loud, not because you're strong, but because once you remember who you really are, you no longer obey their rules. You no longer play their game. You no longer kneel at the feet of their opinions, their judgments, their expectations. You unplug. You stop being a pawn in their system. You stop chasing approval. You stop doubting your instincts. You stop looking outward for the truth that's always been living inside you. The moment you remember your essence, they lose control, because they never had power over your soul. They only had power over your forgetting. This is why your life felt like a battlefield, why it seemed like you were under constant attack. The chaos wasn't random. The trauma wasn't accidental. The heartbreaks, betrayals, losses and lies, they were all aimed at one thing: your memory. If they could keep you distracted, doubting, disoriented, they could keep you disconnected from your core. And as long as you were disconnected, you'd keep operating at half power. Or worse, use your power against yourself. Let's be real. How many times have you felt like something inside you was trying to speak, but you couldn't quite hear it? Like something ancient, something real, was buried under the noise, the conditioning, the pain. That wasn't fantasy. That was your truth knocking on the walls of your forgetting. That was your essence demanding to be remembered. Because even when they had you confused, you still had flashes of clarity. Even when they drowned you in shame, you still had moments of knowing. You still caught glimpses of your greatness in the quiet moments, in your dreams, in your resistance to their control. And that resistance? That wasn't rebellion. That was remembrance in disguise. You were never meant to be tame. You were never meant to be small. You were never meant to live numb and silenced and domesticated. That was the illusion they sold you, because they knew your true nature would dismantle the systems they built. So they fed you distractions. They filled your life with noise. They trained you to seek external validation instead of internal alignment. They told you to follow trends instead of trusting your vision. They told you to stay in line instead of honoring your own rhythm. And the entire time, your real self, the remembering you, was whispering from beneath it all, "This isn't who I am." That whisper, that spark that never died, that's what they feared. Because once you stop trying to be who they told you to be, and you remember who you actually are, you move differently. You speak with conviction. You see through manipulation. You stop apologizing for existing. You walk into rooms and change the energy without saying a word. You stop chasing love from those who can't even face themselves. You stop asking for permission in a world that only exists because of people like you waking up. They didn't fear your talent. They feared your awareness, because awareness makes you sovereign, and sovereignty doesn't comply. Here's the truth they didn't want you to know. They never broke you. They buried you. And what they thought was your defeat was actually your incubation. The pain didn't kill you, it forged you. And every scar you carry is now a roadmap back to who you've always been. They thought if they attacked you enough, you'd forget your power. But you didn't. You remembered. You remembered your strength, your uniqueness, your wisdom, your energy. You stopped trying to fit in and realized you were built to shift things, to wake others up just by existing in your truth, to break generational cycles just by refusing to play along. That kind of remembrance, it's contagious, and that's what scares them most. Because the moment one chosen one remembers, the others start waking up too. And you are the spark. You are the signal. You are the storm that reminds the world what power really looks like when it's unapologetically awake. So if you've been wondering why they tried so hard to erase you, why your life felt like a long battle just to find clarity, now you know. It was never about your failure. It was always about your memory. Because the moment you remember you're no longer a target, you become a threat. And when you remember, they cry, because they know there's no going back. Number 5, they tried to erase you through others. They sent people to finish what they couldn't do themselves. They couldn't break you directly, so they used the faces you trusted. Friends, lovers, family, mentors, people who knew your soft spots, your loyalty, your heart. They turned relationships into weapons, smiles into snares. They didn't need to destroy you with force. They just had to convince you that pain was love and betrayal was your fault. Because that's how the enemy works. When direct attacks fail, they switch to infiltration. The system knew it couldn't take your power head-on, so it poisoned the people close to you, whispered into their wounds, manipulated their fears, used them to access you. Not because they were evil, but because they were easier to reach than you were. And let's be real, you felt it. You just didn't want to believe it. You ignored your intuition. You made excuses for them. You silenced your gut when it screamed, "This isn't love. This is sabotage." You stayed loyal to people who were only sent to distract, drain, or delay you. But it wasn't your fault. You were targeted for one reason: because of your light, because you love hard, because you see potential in people even when they can't see it in themselves, because you carry a loyalty that's rare, a compassion that reaches deep, and a presence that heals even those who don't know they're bleeding. And they used that against you. They studied your heart like a blueprint. They knew if they couldn't get you through fear, they'd get you through love. They knew if they sent an enemy, you'd recognize it. But if they sent a friend, a soulmate, a parent, you'd let your guard down. That's how they slipped in. They didn't want to destroy your body. They wanted to corrupt your spirit. And what better way than betrayal? The worst wounds don't come from strangers. They come from those you never thought would hold the knife. That's why it cut so deep. That's why it took you so long to heal. Not because you were weak, but because you were targeted with precision. But now, you're starting to see it. It wasn't personal, it was strategic. They weren't just bad people. They were pawns, conscious or not, in a system that saw your awakening as a threat. And once you understand that, the bitterness starts to melt. Because now, you're not just healing, you're freeing yourself from a war you didn't start. You start to realize that the betrayals weren't reflections of your worth. They were reactions to your power. You think it's a coincidence that they pulled away the moment you got stronger, that they turned cold the moment you started setting boundaries, that they ghosted when you finally chose yourself. That's not random. That's design. They were never meant to stay. They were meant to test how much of yourself you'd be willing to lose to keep them. And you kept giving. You kept shrinking. You kept bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. But not anymore. Now you're seeing clearly. Now you're walking in discernment, not desperation. Now you're accepting what they tried to make you question, that you were never the problem. You were just too powerful to manipulate. That's what drove them mad. They couldn't control you, so they tried to confuse you. Couldn't silence you, so they distracted you. Couldn't weaken you, so they sent people to drain you until you collapsed. But you didn't collapse. You remembered. And now you're reclaiming every piece of yourself you gave away, trying to be loved, accepted, or understood by people who were never equipped to meet you there. And guess what? You still love. You still care. You still have your heart. But now it comes with boundaries, with awareness, with fire. Because the old you, the one who took betrayal as proof of unworthiness, that version is gone. The new you sees the pattern, sees the playbook, sees the strategy. And the moment you accept that they were sent, not meant, you finally take your power back. No more guilt, no more shame, no more asking, why me? You know why. You were dangerous. You still are. The most powerful thing you can do now isn't seek revenge. It's rise. Rise with clarity. Rise without bitterness. Rise knowing you passed the test. Because when you stop carrying the weight of other people's betrayal, your hands are finally free to build the life they tried to keep you from. You're no longer bound by the ghosts of your past. You're no longer stuck in cycles of pain trying to decode other people's darkness. You're done being the emotional sponge for energy you never created. You didn't just survive the sabotage. You outgrew the system that sent it. And now, as you rise untouched, unbothered, and unbreakable, they cry because they lost the only thing they ever had on you: access. Number 6. They mocked what they couldn't copy. They made fun of what they secretly worshipped. They never hated you. They hated that they could never be you. That's the part they'll never admit, the part that burns in silence when no one is watching. The truth is, they saw something in you they didn't understand, couldn't define, and definitely couldn't duplicate. So instead of honoring it, they mocked it, because that's what insecure spirits do when they're in the presence of something real. They laughed at your passion. They rolled their eyes at your ideas. They called you extra, too deep, too intense. They said you were trying too hard, doing too much, dreaming too big. But when the lights were off and nobody was looking, they were studying you, copying your moves, repeating your words, stealing your style, watering down your essence and wearing it like a mask, hoping no one would notice. But you noticed. And so did the universe. Because there's one thing they can never fake: origin. They didn't mock you because you were off track. They mocked you because you were on to something. Your presence triggered something in them, a reminder of what they could never access. You made them feel small, not because you tried to, but because your authenticity exposed their performance. And in a world full of imitation, nothing is more threatening than someone who shows up exactly as they are. You ever notice how the people who criticized you the most suddenly started sounding like you, dressing like you, adopting your energy, your mindset, your language? That's not coincidence. That's envy wearing a costume. They tried to break you first, but when they couldn't, they tried to be you. And that's the most silent form of flattery, the kind that doesn't clap for you, but steals from you in the dark. But here's the catch. No matter how much they imitate, they can never carry what you carry. You're not just a vibe, you're a blueprint. You're the source, not the copy. You move from a place that isn't learned, it's wired. They can study your flow all they want, but they'll always be one step behind, because you're not creating from the surface, you're channeling from the core. That's what drives them mad. You're not trying, you just are. They put on a show, you live in your truth. They seek applause, you move in alignment. And no matter how much they try to mimic, it doesn't hit the same. Because what's real will always outshine what's manufactured. But don't let it harden you. Don't let their mockery turn into bitterness. Let it remind you who you are. Because the moment you recognize that you were never the joke, you were the inspiration, you stop seeking validation from people who secretly want to be in your position. And that's when they lose the last bit of power they had. See, they thrived when you were unsure, when you doubted yourself, when their laughter made you question your voice, when their side eyes made you shrink. That's when they had a grip. But when you rise with full confidence, when you own that you're the original, that you're not here to be liked, understood, or copied, you become untouchable. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you've accepted everything they tried to deny. They wanted your magic without your struggle, your results without your work, your light without your shadows. But it doesn't work that way. What you carry is the result of battles they'll never understand. Late nights, internal wars, silent tears, spiritual breakthroughs. You earned this frequency. You didn't just arrive here, you fought to be this free. So let them mimic, let them study, let them talk. Because when the dust settles and the masks fall and the noise fades, there you are, still standing, still shining, still you. The original, the source, the storm they couldn't clone. And the more you rise, the more their imitation looks hollow. Their rehearsed energy can't match your presence. Their borrowed words don't carry your weight. And no matter how many versions they produce, the world always knows when it's not you. So accept it, own it, embody it. You don't need to defend your uniqueness to those who secretly want to steal it. You don't owe explanations to echoes, because the moment you accept that no one can replace you, that you are the blueprint, something in them breaks. Their ego dies a quiet death, and behind their smirks and sarcasm, they cry. Number 7. They feared your silence and your voice even more. The moment you speak, the spell breaks. They didn't just want you to be quiet, they needed it. Your silence was never about peace, it was about control. Because as long as you stayed quiet, they could keep rewriting the story. As long as you stayed silent, they had time to shape the narrative, twist the truth, and spread their version of who you are. But the second you speak, the illusion shatters, the spell breaks. The world begins to hear what they tried so hard to silence. From day one, they conditioned you to internalize. Don't make it a big deal. Be the bigger person. Keep it between us. You're being dramatic. These weren't suggestions. They were commands, disguised as advice. Because if they could make you feel guilty for speaking up, they could control the outcome of everything. And that's exactly what they did. They trained you to carry the weight of their actions in silence. You bit your tongue. You second-guessed yourself. You rewrote your own memories just to avoid conflict. They built a cage inside your throat. And every time you wanted to scream, they reminded you to stay composed. But now you're learning the truth. They didn't fear your anger. They feared your clarity. They feared your voice because your voice is connected to power. And power that speaks truth. That's unstoppable. You see, silence isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's prison. And for chosen ones like you, that silence was never protection. It was suppression. They knew that once you found the courage to speak, you wouldn't just set yourself free. You'd start setting others free too. Because your truth carries weight. Your voice wakes people up. Your perspective disrupts the script. That's what makes it dangerous. That's why they tried so hard to keep you quiet. Not just in what you said, but in how you thought. They wanted you to second-guess your instincts, to suppress your questions, to edit yourself before you ever even opened your mouth. But guess what? You're done shrinking. You're done whispering. You're done carrying secrets that were never yours to keep. You've seen too much, felt too much, lived through too much to keep pretending everything's okay. And now your silence is over. You're speaking with a voice that's been purified in fire, sharpened by betrayal, and refined by resilience. And that voice, it can't be stopped. Because when a chosen one finally speaks, the system starts to tremble. Your words aren't just words. They are truth wrapped in authority. They are mirrors that force people to face themselves. They are medicine to those still in the dark. And most of all, they are threats to those who built power on lies. That's why they call you too honest. That's why they say you're too intense, or too emotional, or too much. Because your words don't come from the surface, they come from the core. And the truth at your core? It's destructive to everything false around you. Let's be real, they didn't silence you because you were wrong. They silenced you because you were right. And they knew if you ever realized just how powerful your voice truly is, their influence would disintegrate it. So speak. Speak even if your voice shakes. Speak even if they roll their eyes. Speak even if they pretend not to hear you. Speak, not because they're ready to listen, but because you're ready to be free. Every word you speak in truth is a hammer to the chains they tried to bind you with. Every sentence is a torch in a room full of shadows. Every truth you tell reclaims space that was taken from you. This is your permission. No more apologies, no more shrinking, no more being polite at your own expense. Your silence protected their lies for too long. Now, your voice will destroy them. And when you speak, not with anger, but with truth, not to get revenge, but to reveal, not for attention, but for liberation, they will hear it, and they will know. The version of you they kept quiet is gone. The one who speaks now. That's the real you, the version they always feared would rise. Because your voice doesn't just challenge the narrative, it replaces it. And no matter how many lies they tell, how much denial they live in, how many distractions they throw at you, truth has a sound. And once it's spoken, it can't be unheard. So let them scramble, let them sweat, let them panic behind their fake confidence and empty words, because you've broken the silence. And now they cry. Because they know what comes next. Your voice becomes a revolution. Number 8. They used time to wear you down. Delay was their deadliest weapon. They didn't have to stop you, they just had to slow you down. They whispered, "Not yet," every time you were about to move. "You're not ready," every time you felt the spark. They wrapped hesitation in logic, fear in false wisdom, and made you believe that waiting was growth. But that wasn't patience. That was poison. Every delay was a calculated trap, not to protect you, but to drain you. Because momentum is power, and power terrifies those who built systems to keep you stagnant. They knew the longer you hesitated, the harder it would be to remember why you started in the first place. But now you see it. You see the truth behind their lies. You feel the urgency in your bones. You know the time is now, not next week, not when you're more polished, not when they finally approve. Now, and when you move now, without apology, without fear, without delay, every chain they placed on you breaks. Because the moment you stop waiting for permission and start walking in purpose, their game is over. And when they realize they can't stall you anymore, they cry. Number 9. They feared the day you stopped apologizing. They feared the day you stopped apologizing. They were never afraid of your mistakes. They were afraid of the moment you stopped apologizing for being powerful. Every time you dimmed your light to make them comfortable, they won. Every time you said sorry for your standards, your boundaries, your brilliance, they gained ground. They needed you to shrink, to second guess, to over-explain your existence just so they could feel secure in theirs. You apologized for being too loud, too bold, too ambitious, too emotional, when in reality you were just too real for their shallow world. They taught you to associate strength with guilt, and confidence with arrogance, because a chosen one who owns their power unapologetically is untouchable. But now, you've stopped saying sorry, you've stopped seeking approval, you've stopped handing out disclaimers for walking in your truth, and that terrifies them, because now you take up space, you speak without shrinking, you move without permission, and when you do that, everything they built on your silence starts to fall apart. You're not sorry for evolving. You're not sorry for outgrowing the old version of yourself. And when they see that, when they realize you're done apologizing for who you are, they don't just panic, they cry. And now you see it, clearly, fully, unapologetically. Every delay, every betrayal, every moment of doubt was part of their plan to keep you asleep. But you're not asleep anymore. You remember, you own it. And now, they're watching the one they tried to erase become the force they can no longer ignore. If this message hit your soul, don't let it stop here. Like, subscribe, and drop the number 77 in the comments to let the enemy know you've woken up. Share this with someone else who needs to hear it. Because the more of us rise, the faster their time runs out.